Absolutely. It's one of those things that, again, I don't think you intentionally do, but it builds this kind of authenticity and transparency with the team you need to build, which is so important for a venture. But people are attracted to, like, we're actually making a difference.
Pete Barth is a staple in Greenville. We're here today at the Next Center that you helped create, and you have exited multiple things. You've even bought and resold your own company. You got a lot of entrepreneurial badges, Pete, and it's impressive. Take us back to what you were influenced by at an early stage that really showed you what entrepreneurship is. What your parents, your influences, your mentors, what really baked that in? Who are your parents?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And so I had the luxury of growing up actually with two entrepreneurial parents. I didn't know that at the time. We never used that word, and I think really non-traditional. So my mom, from maybe second or third grade, owned children's clothing stores, and we moved a lot. So every city we moved to, she would sell the last store and open a new one, and that was very much a family, figured out, hang the racks on the walls, figure out, buying merchandise at the merchandise shows.
It's fun to set those kind of businesses up. It's a family. It's sort of a fun activity.
Yeah, and so that was very much, like I got this. Like, this is running a small business. Learned a lot from the rigor and the hard work that went involved in those things. Mm-hmm. And then my dad was a church planner, so a pastor who started multiple churches. And so we moved around, somewhat like a kind of military kid would, but every couple of years we moved to start another church. We actually stayed in Central Florida for a while, but started several churches there.
Well, I want to pause for a second to state that it would be easy for some people to go, oh, my parents were entrepreneurial. My dad exited X and Y. He sold to Microsoft when he was 32, right? But you told a different story, which is they're entrepreneurial, but they were a clothing store owner, a small business person, and a church planter, which I think is incredibly impactful in our communities. If you take faith, which I think is important to an entrepreneur, but if you take that out of the equation, a church planter is an entrepreneur. Every time he's going to a different city, he is starting basically an enterprise the same way your mom was.
Absolutely. And lots of church planners get called to a small group who's already formed. That's not how we did most of them. We moved into the city and there was nobody. And so literally we were, meeting the bank teller and, figuring out, who was in the community that we needed to meet. And I think the most formative, piece of that for me was we were in Central Florida in Newport Richey, and we moved to town and didn't know anybody, and there wasn't a small group, and we were just planting a church there. And we moved into town, and one of the things my dad did was he got really involved in a high school football team. And so there was kind of a formal role as a chaplain. It was a great coach there, John Castlemeyer at Ridgewood High School, and he welcomed my dad in to come and invest into these young guys. And my dad kind of went all in. I think if you've played on sports teams, you've probably interfaced with the chaplain at some point. They usually pray before halftime of the game, or you maybe give a little talk afterwards. But my dad every single day was in the weight room, lifting with the guys, was out on the track, actually helping, not as a coach, but there as kind of a mentor, and actually made a difference in those guys' lives. And it was super interesting because not many of those guys showed up at church, right? But he was genuinely received and built a reputation for really caring for these kind of young guys. And for me, I was in elementary school just watching this. But it paid off, down the road in that reputation of really caring. And even to this day, a number of those guys, they'll comment occasionally on Facebook or that kind of thing. Is you made all the difference. I didn't have a dad. My parents were divorced. My dad passed away. And you served as that father figure for me. And so I just learned there, actually caring and being involved and giving of your time. It wasn't a direct, tit for tat kind of thing, but it paid off dividends. And unknowingly, I had both of those learnings from my parents. But as we started the Iron Nerd and started with the kids' cutting school, it's the same thing. I didn't put words to it till much later.
Sure.
But it was giving back and actually.
You didn't realize you were living out this model, but when you do, and looking back, you go, oh, okay, wait a second, I was doing the same thing. And I applaud you especially in Greenville, because you have done the same thing, which is you created an ecosystem of entrepreneurship because you knew what it needed, and it's also given you opportunities to be a great entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right? And the two are not directly synced,
Sure.
but they are definitely linked, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's impressive that really good entrepreneurs in a church setting and in a business setting really do find how to give back into the community and build the ecosystem that they want to see, and in doing so create something that people go, oh, I need to support that person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that, again, I don't think you intentionally do, but it builds this kind of authenticity and transparency with the team you need to build, which is so important for a venture. But people are attracted to, like, we're actually making a difference. And so that mission, like Iron Yard had it, Flatiron School has it. Even WeWork had it. I mean, there's lots of excess and things that are the negative, but that product is amazing, and it actually gives back and creates real community in these urban centers around the world. But like that level of kind of dedication to the mission, whether it's directly monetary or not, like I think pays off.
It absolutely pays off. Thank you for your service to Greenville and our South Carolina ecosystem of entrepreneurship. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
We can't do Entrepreneur Studio without our sponsors. Please support them because they're supporting entrepreneurship.